Today we're talking to Sherry and May. She is the top 6 women influencers in blockchain. We're going to talk about how to become a success in life and business and how to become a successful blockchain influencer. Sherry, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Very excited to also have you in the Crypto Factor Volume 2, which this interview is a part of. It's coming out soon. We have Volume 1 already out. People can check it down in the description below. So I wanted to ask, let's start by getting to know you. Let's do this. If I met you in high school, what would I think about you?
In high school, oh my God, you're taking me back. In high school, you would say I laughed a lot.
Like now?
Yes, like now. I laughed a lot, huge sense of humor, and very social, got good grades, and played sports.
What kind of sports did you play? Team sports or solo sports?
No, I started playing sports in soccer, and then in high school moved over to field hockey. So I was goalie. I was not very good. But I think I was like the one that was like, all right, fine, I'll be goalie.
And how did you first get involved in blockchain? Because I'm going to go back, forward here just to spice things up. How did you first get involved in blockchain?
I had a friend of mine actually who is head of Influensive, the founder of Influensive, and he had started writing articles and having other writers write articles, just kind of educating on blockchain. And for a couple months, I kind of just ignored it and just kept focusing on my branding work. And all of a sudden one day I was just like, this isn't just a little phase he's going through. This is something that he's getting more serious about. So I asked him, and when I realized that there was a lot more than just, cryptocurrency, that there was a technology behind it, that's kind of when my interest peaked, because I had already been, at the time, I had been had my career, most of my career, almost 20 years in technology. I was a programmer. I started off as a programmer, then eventually had my own tech firm. So as soon as he said that, because I really wasn't interested in stock trading or anything like that. And when I first heard the term cryptocurrency, that's kind of what I figured. So it wasn't really of interest to me. But then when he started telling me about the capabilities of the technology, let me tell you, I started looking into it, and before I knew it, I was studying every night, sometimes through the night into 6 p.m. So it was something that very quickly just hooked me.
So you became obsessed.
I did. That is a perfect name for what happened.
And I met you in decentralized Greece. And you actually had a very hard story. You went through a lot. How did your journey start? Let our viewers know this, because it's extremely important on how you kept going, if you want to talk about that, of course.
Yeah, sure. It's a long story, so I'll give you the brief version. Yeah. But so I was CEO of my own tech firm, and shortly after I got sick, I was in treatment for a couple months. Everything was fine. And then literally, I would say about 8 months later, I went into cardiac arrest.
Hey, Paul here. Let me jump in real quick. If you're getting value so far from watching this video, then please consider subscribing down below and hitting that bell notification button. It will help me, and you get to watch more videos like this one. Thank you, and let's jump back into the video.
Which is different from heart attack. Cardiac arrest, your heart just stops. So it was more like a sudden cardiac arrest. I underwent CPR, ready to call my time of death within 5-10 minutes. And one doctor did not stop. He ordered everyone to continue with CPR. And what happened was, even after an hour and a half, they still could not get my heart restarted. So there's this amazing kind of miracle story of how I was brought back to life. And I spent about 3 months on life support in the ICU, 4 months total in the hospital. And then when I came home, I lived basically on for 5 years on a bionic heart. It's a
Wow.
device. Yeah, it's a device called we call it an LVAD, LVAD, which stands for left ventricular assist device. So if you Google it, you can find out all this information. But basically, it was a device that was implanted in me just below my heart, and it actually had two external huge batteries. And I think you saw a picture of it in Greece. And for my tight frame as a woman, it was a lot. So for 5 years, I spent living on this portable life support device, and eventually had a heart transplant in late 2014. And so basically from 2015 till now, I've been using social media to basically kind of get out there, not really knowing what I was doing other than I'm in recovery. I've just had this huge trauma. I need to make money. And so I kind of started off thinking, well, maybe I could write a book. Maybe I could share my story. And what ended up happening was my story started spreading, and more people started interviewing me. All of a sudden, I had this brand. And so it's funny because my role into blockchain, everything that led into me getting to a blockchain was like a complete accident. Nothing was planned. I did not ever think I was going to end up back in technology. I really was I had just fought for my life, right? And then after my transplant, I felt like I was fighting for my life a second time, because now I needed to rebuild my body. I had lost my firm, my tech firm. I was literally starting from scratch. So it's amazing that social media just gave me this platform. And by showing up every single day and being around people and networking, I was just able to grow this leadership platform and now speak all over the world on behalf of blockchain, and other, amazing topics. So.
And it's funny because a lot of people that try to become successful, that are on this journey to success, don't understand that you have to go. It's how you handle certain things when
Yes.
you're pushed and you handle them, and they all think it's easy. And most of the time it isn't. It's got to do with a character, and you're very strong. And I know that a lot of people that might give a perspective of that to keep on going on. I mean, I went through cancer myself and got into all this, and I was on chemotherapy, bone marrow transplants, and that's when I wrote my first two books. I had to recreate myself because I lost everything and so forth. So it's funny how success comes from inspiration or devastation, and it's usually the latter. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can definitely relate then.
yeah, but not as much as you went through. I mean, that's insane. I feel like I was going through a walk in the park.
Well, what's funny is like my husband even says that when we think of the last few years dealing with the cardiac arrest and that recovery, right, through the heart transplant. I mean, cancer at the time was devastating. I mean, you know what it's like. And then to go through the treatments emotionally, your whole life changes.
Yeah.
And your whole perspective on life changes. And it's amazing because that period of my life was so traumatic. And yet, because this piece was added to it with the heart, we use the same words. We're like, gosh, the cancer was like a walk in the park, even though it wasn't. But
Right.
it's like, you know what I mean? But what that really shows me is how relative everything is in life, and how your perspective can shift everything, right? Because my perspective on cancer shifted after the cardiac arrest, the heart transplant, right? But if this didn't happen, my devastation still would have been cancer. So I always like to share that with people, because sometimes I get, people say to me, My story is it's nothing like yours. So who am I to complain? It's like, no, everything is relative to what happens in our life. I mean, to be honest, even though I've been through a lot with my heart transplant, because it was like a chronic condition for several years, I was in and out of the hospital. I got to see people that were going through what I was on, like literally on the LVAD, like I was, right? But because they had additional complications such as diabetes,
Yeah.
they had, while they were in the hospital with me, they had to have like a leg amputated. So for me,
Yeah.
while right, while my
Got you.
why my story is so incredible to other people, to me, I'm like, you guys have no idea how much worse,
Always.
right? So I think that's just so critical in life.
Yeah, it is. It gives you different. For me, it gave me a higher purpose. It gave me a clearer vision. I'll say this, and then we can go on.
Mm-hmm.
And we might come back to this later. But for me, if I said this, I said if I can get old, become old with my friends, cancer may have been the best thing that ever happened to me, because
Yeah.
it gave me a higher purpose of vision. Something I was always doing things for other people, but it gave me more of a higher purpose, if you will.
Yes, I
Clear
love that.
things up.
Yes.
So I have to ask you, Sherry, what drove you where you are today? What was the driving factor behind, if you will?
I To start with, I would say emotionally, the drive was, it's almost like because I had had so many friends pass away,
Mhm.
along my journey. I've had people along the journey of cancer pass away. I've had young girls younger than me, actually, and men younger than me, um, pass away before they got their heart transplant.
Mm.
I've seen a lot the past 7 years. Like that was my life. So this life out here on social media, every day, just me going to the grocery store, I can't explain to you how surreal it is. It's really an entirely different world. There are so many people struggling right now in
Yeah.
life. And I was a part of that and was blessed enough to come out healthy. I don't take that for granted. So the drive for me was like, I'm only alive because a 21-year-old gave me their heart.
Mm.
That's why I'm alive. So it might be hard to understand, if somebody doesn't have a transplant, but you almost feel like you're two people now. Um, it's not even just, which drives home the point, it's not about you anymore, right? Like physically, that's even driven home for me. So I felt like I was so grateful to still be alive. It's such a miracle after these 7 years for me to be alive and this healthy,
Mm.
that I felt like there was no way for me to thank my heart donor, but I could give back. So hands down, the moment I got home from my heart transplant, I was in a wheelchair, couldn't feed myself. All my whole body had atrophied. So I couldn't do this. I couldn't feed. I couldn't do anything. And yet I made my husband, while I was laying down in bed, put a pillow on my chest, right? Because I was lying flat.
Mm.
And I could not hold the weight of my iPhone. It was too heavy. So I would put it on this pillow and I would use one finger and just type out this tiny little book that took me it was so hard to write. But I wrote it with one finger and I wrote it on the notepad. And it was this book to help the other patients I had left behind
Wow.
that were awaiting on this LVAD device. They were awaiting their heart transplant. And that's how driven I was. I couldn't even eat. I could not eat. And I was determined, laying flat on my bed to just get this book out. Like it's almost a little embarrassing looking at it now. I feel like I should take it down and rewrite it because I was writing it while in pain and just not doing well, but it helped some of the patients that were out there. You know, it gave them some tips or whatever. So honestly, that's how I started everything. Like everything I've built was from that one mission to just be like, I know I can't walk right now. I know I can't feed myself, and I probably won't. I don't even know if I'm going to live on this new heart. I mean, that was the reality. You know, you're not even like in the clear until a year, right? Yeah. So I don't know. It just gave me something to not focus on my struggle, not focus on my worry that was my heart going to reject, you know, was it going to reject my body? It just gave me the mindset to focus on other people that were struggling, that were less fortunate than I was. And I think it's been maintaining that mindset that always leads me to add value first. And it's like, even in business, when I just add value first, never thinking about myself, miracles just happen. And I think that's just such a critical thing that I would impart on everyone that's, you know, running a business or trying to get in tech or trying to learn from the best. I really built my influence by just giving. And it sounds a little scary, I think, when you're trying to put food on your table. But I was the same. I was trying to actually get money for my heart transplant meds. But I didn't want to live this life of just looking for money.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let me ask you this, Sherry. Let me go a little bit further on.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for all this, if this didn't happen, what would you see yourself doing?
You know, that is such an amazing question, because I would not be who you know me to be right now. I was not a public speaker. I could not be on camera. I would pass out. If you put a mic in front of my face and put me on stage, I would blank out, probably burn up in heat and just fall. Everything that happened to me allowed me to just put fear in this little cloud and just push it aside and just do whatever I need to do every day. I mean, it sounds crazy, but that's how I got over my fear of speaking. It's how I got rid of my fear of being on camera. And I mean, it's amazing. It was that perspective that I lost my life in a split second. And you understand that too with cancer. You understand it's the difference between you going around your life every day, you're laughing with your friends, your family, everything's good. All it takes is one sit down in front of a doctor. One sit down. And your whole life shifts.
Just change.
Yes. And I think with that awareness, with that understanding, and we get glimpses of it, like when a loved one dies, you see people really gathering around, but then we forget that lesson, that life is so precious. And so many of the fears that we have, when you really look at it, is my life in danger getting on a stage in front of 1,000 people or even 20? Is my life in danger? Yes or no? Okay, so if it's not, that is a fear that you actually can put in perspective. because your body, your brain is telling you you're in danger of getting on that stage, but you're actually not, which means it's possible for you to overcome it.
And
Right?
it's funny you should mention that, but a lot of people, just because you went through, I went through what I went through, a lot of people don't do this. This doesn't become them. This success mindset or mindset, if you will, is not part of it. So, because if I think back, and I want to ask you the same question, I had agoraphobia, I had panic attacks. I went through a series of stuff in my life, but I still became a singer, a public figure, talking on stages and so forth. But that was me pushing myself. Were you always like this before? Were you always trying to face your fears, or was that discovered after what happened to you?
I was definitely a risk taker. I will say that. I've always been a risk taker. I've always been different, like just different. And I still am, even more so now. But I never really felt like I fit in. If I had friends, they were from like a million different groups. Like I, I didn't like doing things the normal way. So I would say that probably that mindset of like, I didn't realize it at the time, right? But that's a mindset of like thinking outside the box, being resourceful. But at the time, I didn't know that. I was different. Like things, I was very drawn to my own values in life. So, for example, like if you said in high school, all the different like cliques we call them, right? The brains, the athletes and this and that, artists, and I just had a friend like in each of them. And
Same here.
yeah. And so, and I always didn't like that about myself. I'm like, why can't I be a part of like fully in a clique? But I could never vibe 100% with everyone from one clique. And it didn't satisfy my needs for other types of conversations and stuff like that. So even if I fought it, I couldn't. I would end up being friends with other people. And so I think that just comes down to my values are that this world is rich. It's full of culture and knowledge and wisdom and gratitude and love and community. Like those things, I don't know, maybe I was born this soul that I always had this inner wisdom that the world was so much bigger than like my neighborhood. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe that's a rare trait. I just wonder that because I've always been like that. It's not till I got to adulthood that and after the tragedy and then really full blown rebuilding my entrepreneurship, did I realize now that I had this community, this social media community, everyone around me was an entrepreneur. That wasn't the case when I built my tech firm, right? Like we didn't have, social media wasn't that big like years ago. So you kind of were like building your company yourself. Like entrepreneurship was not, what's the word? It wasn't as glamorous.
Yeah.
Right, as it is now. So I didn't have like anyone.
I don't think it still isn't. It doesn't have to be, or at least not to all entrepreneurs are on social media becoming influencers, and people are working, they're building as well,
Yes, and what's so interesting that you say that is because I'd been out of business so long, when I came on social media and started, I wasn't trying to be an influencer. I just couldn't leave my house because I was in a wheelchair. So I was just, again, tapping into my heart, my values, and being resourceful. It wasn't me being like, oh, there's influencers online. You can actually make, like, I actually didn't know. I was in a hospital for
Right.
7 years, right? So what's so funny is I'm naturally just a business person. So it's really wasn't until I got into blockchain and then kind of shot into this like blockchain top influencer status, and then started kind of diving into some of the behind the scenes of startups and realizing, why aren't they building companies the same way that I'm used to?
Right.
Um, is when I realized, okay, so I needed to be online to rebuild my body, to rebuild credibility, a presence, get known, because I was trapped in my house. What I didn't realize was happening was that I was getting trapped in an influencer lifestyle.
Got you.
Right? Meaning the normal types of business people that I have been a part of, that community, working for corporations, understanding how to do project management, understanding everything like involved in building a business. I would realize I was in this path associating with people that were entrepreneurs, but the sometimes the ethics, the integrity, the processes,
Yeah.
it wasn't there. And I swear I thought I was going crazy.
They lack the foundation it
Yeah.
requires, if
Yes.
you will. The basics, I would say.
The basics.
The
Yes.
basics.
The basics. So it's funny because, like you said, it really hasn't been until the past 6 months where I said, where have I ended up? Like, really, where have I ended up? That I realized this and I had this awakening. And so part of me now is really kind of getting back out into the physical world, and also being very careful about screening and vetting people even online, because there's a lot of promises out there. There's a lot of big ideas. And when you peel back that curtain, it's a whole other ball game, and it's something that I don't align with at all. So it's really interesting even to be having this conversation with you right now, because I really am in this, I've been in this past kind of 6-month period of really analyzing and having to reteach myself what happened, because it's hard to explain what it's like to disappear for 7 years, come back, and then you think, oh, I'll just pick up where I left off. And you realize, no, the entire tech environment has changed.
Yeah.
Like not just the technology, the people building these startups, many of them don't have the foundation in business. And
Most
that's
of them.
most of them. Right. Most of them. And so I finally got clarity on why I felt like I was struggling on that business level in terms of communication. So yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, because but I love that you said there are real entrepreneurs out there, real businesses. They're just not all on social media. And I just want to share, like, that was the big awakening I had.
Back in my day, and one of my days now, when I was saying I was an entrepreneur, I had a video production company in Greece, I had a consulting company in Bulgaria, and I was out there doing stuff. I was consulting.
Yes.
I started my YouTube channel while I was fighting cancer. Now, obviously, before that, I was also an MC. I was a director, so I was in that lifestyle.
Yes.
But it's very different when I came and saw some of these startups, air quotes, because they're ICOs. Very different than what we thought. I thought of a great question for you, but I also wanted to ask my audience, if you have any questions for Sherry, please comment down below. I will try and ask her next time, because I want to get her on one more time, because she just inspired me to ask all these different questions, but I don't want to go off subject. So please ask your questions down below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss the re-upload. If you agree, of course, Sherry, that you will do an interview with me again.
Oh my God, I would love to.
Great. And I will also leave links to your YouTube channel or any social media or anything you have down in the description below. So I have a good question for you at the end of the interview. I will ask you. I will probably put you in a difficult position. So until then,
Until then.
just to make sure I get all my answers first before you like click off. What does success mean to you?
I love this question. I love this question. Success really to me is it's really being resourceful and taking whatever situation you're in and finding a way to grow from it, expand on it, always remain true to yourself, to your soul, and to treat yourself exactly as you would want anybody else to treat you. Mm. I've really come a long way with that one. If you had asked me this 10 years ago, my answer would have been very, very different.
What would it be?
It would have been, I want to have a house in this particular location. I wanted to have a jacuzzi. I wanted to, which all those things are wonderful. But I realized I don't have to wish or plan for those things if I'm taking care of myself. Because I truly believe that when you take care of yourself, I'm talking emotions, mental state, body, your vibration, your thoughts, how you talk to yourself, I believe everything falls into place. Your relationships, because you know that you're worthy of the best relationships. I believe business offerings or dealings or clients, because you know that you deserve clients or businesses that are aligned with who you are. So honestly, that to me is success. And I've witnessed it for myself. I've had moments where it breaks down. And I give myself grace to be human. But I see how quickly that can fall apart if the number one focus is not me. We've been taught our whole lives that thinking about ourselves is selfish. I'm not talking about greed. I'm talking about putting your self-care first. Just like putting the oxygen mask on first, yes, right? On a plane, yes, before your child.
You have to put the oxygen mask first so you can mask on first so you can help your child. Yes. I would say sometimes you have to be selfish until you can become generous.
I love that. Yes, absolutely, 100%.
So let's take an example of success as in financial success. Yeah. Do you think anyone can be successful in life, or even off financial, whatever they want to become, whatever success is to them? Do you think anyone can be successful in life?
I absolutely do. I 100% believe that. And a lot of times people come back and be like, well, I can't just all of a sudden be in the army because I don't have the build or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's what's keeping people from being successful is not understanding for themselves what success really is. I really honestly believe most people don't know what success is, which is why they don't know how to create it. The external stuff that we see, the cars, the big houses, all of that is a symptom. It's actually a symptom of your success. It is not the success. And until you can really understand that, you'll never really reach fulfillment. And a really great way I like to explain this is, as bizarre as this sounds, I found so much success on life support.
Mm.
And it's hard to talk about, but when you're hooked up to life support for 3 months and you can't eat and you've got a tube down your throat and you can't communicate except people trying to read your lips, and you're scared, right? And you don't know if you're going to live another few minutes for 3 months. I had to do the work. So the work to get you like the money you want, the business you want, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I had to do it, right? I had to do it because my life depended on it. So there was a member of my family once that said, being on life support was easy for you because all you had to do was lay there. We had to worry about you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just let people have that viewpoint, right? Because everyone's perspective is different.
Who of these people are willing to trade places?
Right?
Just saying.
Exactly.
It's easy to say shit, but
It is. It is. And I'm sure you heard a bunch of stuff being on cancer. Yeah. And that's what happens. But I want to really share that the success I had training my mind every day to look for tiny glimpses of joy while a machine was acting as my heart and while another machine was acting as my lungs, with probably about 500 different drugs hanging from trees behind me. I had to find happiness. I had to do the inner work to find happiness. So if I can be a success on life support, I believe you can find success in anything you want.
yeah.
You just have to know how to actually attract success. And when you know how to attract success, then you'll get it. Because what I wanted on life support was I needed peace, I needed comfort, and I wanted to get out. And I got all of those.
Right. So what if somebody's out there watching right now, is an entrepreneur, is hustling, is doing what he's got to do to succeed? What does it actually take? What is that thing that they need to look for?
The number one key is the mindset. The mindset will take you down. It will take you out. If you do not, I mean, I'm telling you, like whether it was cancer, whether it was heart failure, or building a
common
business,
cold, okay? It's still the same thing.
it is the same thing. Exactly as the common cold. It is the same thing, because we all know when you get the flu, you feel like you're dying. All right. So
Yeah.
really, like, so let's even break it down to the common cold. Like, you know how crazy your mind goes just with the flu.
Yeah.
So it's like 1,000 times worse with entrepreneurship, and it's consistent, right? Sometimes it's daily challenges that show up. Sometimes it's every time your business grows to a bigger level, you know, you're required to show up in a bigger level. You know, if your business is bringing in more revenue, it's employing more people or more contractors, your responsibility, what you are holding, becomes bigger than the person you were at the start of your entrepreneurial journey. So how to grow into that power, no matter what you're doing, growing your business, standing on stage, being a public speaker, it's going to require a bigger you. So number one thing I did, I filled my brain with really powerful business leaders and motivational, I would say motivational business leaders. So how that looked in the beginning from my bed, and I couldn't feed myself, I didn't have this big plan to like be doing what I'm doing now. For me, it was like, I just kind of want to share my story on live stream, right? But to get over the mental, you're in your pajamas, you don't have any makeup on, who's going to want to listen to you? Look at you, you're like 112 pounds, everything, you're going to knock everything over. I had to listen, the headphones on, and the entire day, I had positivity going in both ears because I knew I couldn't do it myself. So if you really want something, one of the biggest things to do, when I talk about being resourceful, that's a type of resourcefulness, meaning I am too afraid to do it myself, or I don't know how to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm too negative. I keep going back into my darkness. Instead of trying to do it yourself, it's okay to get help. So for me at the time, because I couldn't leave my house, the help I got was in the form of like, I don't know, $5 audio that I literally just put into my brain and allowed that talk to be my new friends.
It's funny, exactly what I did.
Really?
Yeah, Patrick Bet-David from Valuetainment, all these inspirational people just listening and watching YouTube.
Yes.
I couldn't get out of the house. Yeah, and I was trying to reinvent myself online, just listening to podcasts and just reading and learning as much as I could because I would fall asleep, obviously. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
And also, didn't it feel comforting for you too?
Yes.
Right? Because you didn't have to rely on anybody else. It was something that you could do for yourself and feel like you had a sense of control of your environment.
Yeah.
Which is so critical as an entrepreneur, because you and I both know it does not help us if we are in an environment that's not positive and uplifting.
Exactly. And what you mentioned earlier on about trying to write the book on your iPad on the pillow, mine wasn't just as dramatic, but because I was getting chemotherapy, at some point I was getting also injections in my spine. And one of them went wrong. I was 19 days in bed and I could not write. So I recorded most of my book and had it transcribed.
Yeah.
So it's just drive that you just want to succeed. Yeah. And it's beautiful. It keeps you going.
It does.
I don't think I would have made it if it wasn't for that.
Yeah.
And talking about failure, how do you handle failure? Because they say you have to fail in order to succeed. How do you handle that?
I literally, I'll just be honest, I don't see failure at all. I don't think it exists. I really, and I'm not just quoting a book. How can you, it's not even, if you're still breathing and you're still able to try again, how is that a failure? That's data. That's knowledge you learned that you can shift things, do things there. I think in terms of data. Like I need to try something, get input, right? And then shift things a bit and then go forward. And you keep testing. Like that's a baby does that when they're starting to walk again. Or walk for the first time, I should say. I was thinking of myself having to walk again. But a baby, for the first time, has to do trial and error. So how is that any different? I mean, we're born learning how to do trial and error. A baby doesn't say, I failed and then give up. Why, as an adult, would you even, just because some entrepreneur talks about my 20 times that I failed before I hit success. Why do you need to take even that language in?
Mm.
So here's the thing I do want to really express with people. You know, my perspective of everything that happened to me taught me a lot. And it also taught me the ability to take what you need and leave the rest. So if the idea of failure, or if I'm looking at something that didn't go right and I think of it as failure and my energy drops, there's something wrong with the way I'm thinking.
Yeah.
You actually, when something doesn't go right, if you didn't have that training of the word failure, you could actually celebrate when something, because here's the thing with me, I celebrate because I got a result. The biggest thing I hate is no results. I can't stand when, like, that's why sometimes if I'm working with these startups, when they do their little secrecy thing, I'm like, I need more data. Like, you need to communicate a little bit more of what's going on, because I can't help you unless you communicate. So if somebody doesn't communicate with me and that data is blocked from me, I don't have a result. So I look at life the same way. I look at business the same way. If something is not working, that is just a clue that something was not positioned right, or you were looking in the wrong direction, your target was wrong, whatever it is, it doesn't need to be looked at as a failure. And I actually wish a lot of these books and stuff and trainings could reframe that word and actually almost get it out of existence. It's one of those words, you know, some people don't like the word try. I do not like the word failure at all.
So here's another question for you. Do you think mentors are important, and did you have any mentors?
Yeah, they're very, very important. I think it's really critical to find the right mentor for you. And I'll explain in a bit what that means. I definitely did. In the beginning, my mentor was Grant Cardone. So for me, when I heard him speak, he speaks with a level of like integrity and ethics that I really aligned with my soul. Like, he is very, it doesn't matter whether he's talking about your brand or closing a sales deal.
It's very to the point.
It's very to the point.
Exactly.
I appreciate that. I appreciate people that are frank, that are honest, to the point. I don't want fluff, right?
Yeah.
I talk about fluff when I'm talking about maybe my near-death experience, or, you know, if I'm speaking about something specific with branding and communicating a story, right? But sometimes people get a little shocked when I'm very direct too, because I don't think the fluff does anybody justice, and it's a very easy way to hide. It's very easy to hide. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate Grant for being so direct. So I really aligned with him. He's been a very big mentor in that aspect.
The 10X rule was my favorite audiobook, by the way.
Yes, that's what I started with. Yes.
Yeah. It was given to me by my mentor in life. One of them, he actually was like, look, you got to listen to this. You got to read this. So,
nice. Oh, I love that.
That's how I first got to Grant Cardone. I thought his accent was a bit weird in the beginning, but then after a while, I said,
right? I know his accent's so funny. I love it. I think I'm so used to it now. It's so funny. But yeah, so he was amazing for me. I will say that there's a whole market out there, people online that want to be your mentor, want you to join their mastermind. What I would say is that, you know, I got distracted by some of that because, I mean, that's a whole other story. But what I will say is the best advice you could do is to say, what do you need? What do you need in this moment? Because for me, I needed somebody like Grant Cardone more than sales. It was more, he gave me that power, that conviction to know that I could do anything, right?
Yes.
So it wasn't until later that I started really being like, oh, let me check out some of the sales. It was, at the beginning, he was getting me out of bed. I mean,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I liked him for too. I
Yeah.
liked him more on his. I love his sales material, but I really liked his motivation material.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't stay depressed around his
Nope.
content.
Nope.
So, I mean, so that's what I need at that time. And once I started actually getting clients and doing stuff like that, and probably, I wouldn't say playing with bigger numbers, but just learning a different types of sales technique now that everything was digital and online. So then I dove deeper into his sales and stuff like that. And again, I will take the sales, and then I'm still going to be Sherry. I'm
Mm.
still going to be me. I'm not going to turn into a hard closer or whatever. Like I'm still, so you, again, you can pick and choose what you want, but I think the clarity of saying, where am I in my business right now? Have I
Mm.
started yet? Or am I looking to scale right now? And I'm not quite sure. Do I need to learn how to hire? I would not go to a mentor that claims to be everything,
Mm.
because what you're going to do is you're going to walk out confused.
Yeah.
And even in my own branding, like the branding consulting side of my business, I've really made sure to cut down on what the service is, because I don't even want to be in the trap of having to walk someone through the entire range of what it takes, because they do require different skills,
But it's
right?
also a trap in the sense that if you are watching mentors too much, if you are watching
Mm,
these online gurus, if you will, I don't really like that word because the serious ones, I would never call them gurus, but let's just say gurus, just for argument's
yeah.
sake. You trap yourself into thinking you're doing something to succeed, but you're not. You're just sitting there watching videos all day.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you need to
That's
like,
a huge trap.
and then you get addicted to it. You're just watching them all day, and you're watching Grant Cardone, you're watching Patrick Bet-David, and you go watching Alex Becker, and you're watching all these people, and they're great. But
Yes.
then that's all you're doing.
Yes. And I'll tell you a secret that I do to avoid that and make the most of my mentors. And most people will tell you this about me. I will learn something specific from a mentor and immediately implement it.
Mm.
So, you know, we're blessed because everything is recorded now. So it's not like you need to sit on there and watch Grant Cardone all day. You can watch a clip where he's talking about hiring, or he's talking about, social media branding, or how to scale your branding, whatever it is. You watch that, whatever he breaks it down for you. He gives you actual tips.
Yeah.
But most of these, the good ones, the good mentors will give you tips. If you can't walk away from that and immediately set up a quick little, I don't know, a link on your website that takes a potential client to schedule, pay for you, and buy an hour of your time, and boom, you get some income coming in. If you can't immediately implement what somebody just taught you, you're going to struggle the whole way.
Yeah. Exactly.
And right, and so that is the biggest key, and that's what will help prevent you from getting trapped in that all day, every day listening to the mentor. I was able to do that in the beginning when I was stuck in bed, and I needed that more for motivation. But there's a point, if you're running out of money or you're ready to get the business going and you realize you haven't done anything yet, yeah, that's what you need to do. You need to really just pick one strategy they're giving you and implement it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's, again, the testing begins. Did it work? Did it not work? Is there something you need to go back to? Are there questions you need to ask them? So just like Grant, if he's on a live stream, ask him a question.
Yeah.
Right? Don't just sit there and listen to the stream and be shy. Be resourceful. See where he's coming on live. And he's one of the best at really answering your questions. He makes himself very accessible to people.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And another trick that I do is I'll have somebody like Grant that can help me with the overall vision, the day-to-day motivation, the sales tactics, the blah, blah, blah. And then I'll pick even a more accessible mentor that, you have to be willing to invest. So even if maybe it's a YouTube video, or maybe it's an actual strategy session for a couple of months, either way, invest your time or your money. That's how you're going to grow. But I would get somebody more specific that understands the exact business you want to create, and they can usually break down more of the intricate steps that will connect all the business pieces together. So I like to keep like the big grand, like Grant Cardone, somebody like that, and then have somebody that's a little bit more relatable to who I am and what I'm doing.
And you mentioned before that they go day in, day out. Do you have any daily habits or morning rituals?
Let's see. I like to do, and I'm not perfect at this by any means. Let me just state that. Like I do not walk around here like I have it all together. Like since day one, I'm like, you guys, I am recovering from a heart transplant. I do what I need to do, but I do tend to start my day either stretching, doing some light yoga. One of the things I had to overcome was not eating in the morning, which is terrible. So if I don't eat something small, oatmeal or whatever, sometimes I'll have some type of drink that will give me like the proteins and stuff like that, or even some fruit. And I always start my day, actually before I even get out of bed, I start the motivational content. So there's some people that just over the years you find your favorites, and I just tend to start my day either with a podcast, a YouTube video. I usually go over like what are my goals, like long-term goals, right? So that's another thing I do is every day I review my goals. So I have quarterly goals, I have yearly goals. I'm very, very adamant about absorbing myself into my vision. And that's what keeps me aligned. It's what keeps me getting action done, because I know by the end of the quarter, I've got about 3 months to hit certain milestones. That really has helped me achieve quite a bit in just 4 years. Yeah. So that whole morning routine is really about self-care, getting my mindset right, and then understanding where are you going? Like, where are you going in the next 3 months, right? So that you know what to work on today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what does a typical day look like for you?
Okay, so my day is crazy. It can be anywhere from client calls regarding branding or storytelling. I'm in meetings a lot. So meetings with, it could be blockchain startups or fintech startups. Sometimes with my team, I've got designers or different people on my team. So managing everyone to organize content, writers. So most of last year I was traveling about twice a month. So I would be on flights all the time, in hotels, managing clients overseas. It's quite busy, to be honest. And I'm at a place right now where it's definitely time for me to expand my team to help me kind of manage it. I would say more the management level part of it. I've been doing that part myself a little too long. But yeah, it's a lot of preparing for talks, keynotes, writing. I do a lot of writing because I'm a columnist for different media platforms. Tons of podcast interviews. So I've done quite a bit. A lot of times I'm interviewed as well for television. I'm also the brand ambassador for Columbia University Medical Center and New York Presbyterian Hospital. So I did. It's calmed down quite a bit, but I spent a year doing a lot of commercial recordings for them, speaking in front of doctors and surgeons. So my brand attracts a lot of different industries, to be honest, from medical and healthcare to tech, finance, real estate. I get pulled into any industry because of my story, right? Because of the motivational, inspirational story. I would say, again, it's about now 4 years into building my brand that I'm in the midst of like redesigning and restructuring how my business is going to work moving forward. So the website will have a whole new feel. It'll be attracting a specific target. And then anything that is kind of, I don't want to say supplemental, but anything that's not that target will have subsets of my brand. So there'll be separate businesses. So all of that is now kind of being structured after 4 years of me just going out there and being like, hey, I'm here. Like,
I'm here.
I'm here. How can I bring value? What do you want to know about? Right.
Yeah.
So now it's like, I'm bringing it all in and really structuring the business. Okay, I've got a tech portion now, tech consulting portion, do the branding consulting. There's certain services like podcasting, production that I now offer. So I'm really starting to build the business side more now of the brand. Nice. Yeah, so it's really exciting.
I'm also looking forward to see where it goes. I know you're going to take it very high and do something that will surprise everyone.
Thank you.
Sherry, let's go a little bit into crypto. Where do you think crypto is going?
It's such an interesting question. I've started kind of referring more to the digital currency aspect of it, as a method to bring value, to allow people to get paid transactionally for the value that they bring, right? So through membership sites, contributing content, half the time we contribute our data and don't get a dime of that, right?
Very much.
Right. So I have to be honest, I'm a little bit jaded from the hype of 2017 to 2018 and some of the bad actors, or a lot of the bad actors in this space. I'm in a period right now where I'm in a reset. And what that means is I absolutely 100% understand the benefits of the blockchain in terms of transparency, accountability, greater responsibility, the ability to track, these transactions on an immutable ledger, whether it's goods or financial transactions, whatever. I 100%, it's incredible and it's so needed, obviously, but are we as a society, global society, are we able to come together and do what's necessary? Is the current infrastructure able to integrate, or is this something that would be ideal and maybe can be implemented on quote unquote smaller scales throughout the world, but not necessarily integrating the whole world? That honestly is still to be, tested. We don't even know. The technology is still being built. The mindset of the current corporations who drive the economy still have an old mindset of siloed thinking. There's a lot that needs to take place in order to actually integrate this global value chain. And we need to really shift from this what's in it for just me and my company mentality and how we can dominate to collaborating. And I honestly believe that on an internal structural level of these companies, they actually need to restructure the old system, because there is this lack of trust between companies. And if you really dig deep into understanding where that lack of trust is coming from, you know, why would they go on a blockchain alongside a competitor if they don't even like trust them or their data in the hands of somebody else in the first place? So, and then if you get one company to do that, what's to say all the others are going to? So there's so many factors that I feel like they may be getting addressed. I'm not sure, because they're kind of hidden under all the chatter of crypto and the potential of blockchain. But really, like, what are we doing now? Besides the fact that I get the developers are developing, I get that we're all going around the world chatting about the benefits and how wonderful it's all going to be. I get that. But where are the discussions, and where are the system thinking consultants? Is that happening? Is that occurring within these companies? Are they open, or are they just looking to buy a blockchain product? Because blockchain can't bring value if you haven't set up your company to, first of all, be evaluated to the level to understand where your particular company's value is. Every company has a value. Like, there actually isn't, and scientifically, it's actually been proven, there is something unique about every single business. And it has to do with where you set up, almost like the anchoring point. They call it the constraint, but it's almost like the anchoring point, the one piece of that company that's going to set them apart from the rest. And then all other elements of operations of that business functions around that particular constraint. Now, here's the thing. You don't know what that constraint is until somebody comes in and actually does the work that they know how to do. You can't just guess it. You can't just be like, oh, I'm a tech startup, so the dev team is the constraint. You don't know that. It could actually be another department that's leading like into the tech department.
It'll take years. So it'll even take years to come out, right?
Yes. And so that's the thing. And so do I believe in it? It's a great concept. There's too many elements right now. Do we trust the leaders? Is everybody following even the basics of business and business law? There's too many companies out there right now for the SEC to even track everybody. Can the public trust these people with all the data breaches going on? Can we trust that these new startups, can we trust Silicon Valley with our future? Look at Theranos that just happened. I hate having to bring up something like that, but that's a real issue. Theranos was a company in Silicon Valley that decided to become a medical expert, like overnight, with no medical consultations from any doctors. And 13 years later or something, now they're going down as a $9 billion fraud. How we got to this point in 13 years with members of the Department of Defense, or Department of, Department of Justice, I think, were on the board. There's a lot that needs to happen. This world has changed rapidly. Technology has changed rapidly. I think we all, on a human level, on a skill level, and on a business interaction level, I think the tech is moving too fast, and we don't know what to do with it. So we're kind of, yes.
That's a great point.
We're kind of flailing around a little bit, and we all have our titles right now and advisor and all this.
Yeah, yeah.
But I tend to look at the bigger picture.
Mm.
So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, basically. And for anybody that thinks everything is going to change by 2020, 2021, is kidding themselves. Business
It's going
does
to take a
not,
little longer than that.
a little
It's
longer.
funny. Everyone, I remember in 2017, everyone was making fun of Ty Lopez, especially when he was about to get into crypto. But here's the funny part. He said, "Are we too late? Is it a bubble? Are we too late?" He's like, "Maybe, but I think we're too early." And you know what? It's funny. People make fun of successful people, but they don't realize that these people are smart. They know what they're talking. They're not stupid.
Oh, yeah.
You don't become a multi-millionaire with
Yes.
stupidity.
Yeah.
At least don't keep the money with stupidity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, here's the deal. With a lot of these businesses, affiliate marketing, crypto in the beginning, with what happened 2017, 2018, it's all relative. Like, we have to remember, what is our focus long term? So if you walk around thinking, oh, did we miss it? Meaning, did you miss being able to pump and cash out?
Exactly.
That's a little bit different from me talking about being able to track salmonella poisoning.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a lot of what page are we all on here?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that need to be cleaned up. I think the cleanup we will definitely start to see within the next couple of years, sooner than that. But it's the building, the testing, and seeing if this is going to work. I do believe that there's so much promise in blockchain. I've heard both sides.
Yeah.
I do make sure that I study everything. So it's hard to find the ones that don't so much believe in it, but for me, I have to listen as well to what their points are. And I understand all points of view. So I would say all of this would be amazing for so many reasons for the global economy. And I want nothing more to see all these benefits that we all started off with this mission. Mm-hmm. I want nothing more than to see that happen. It is going to take a lot of work, a lot of skills, a lot of brains, a lot of brilliance, right? And this is not just building like the iPhone, patching things together. We're talking about an entire restructuring of the global economy. This is not a game.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What do you think people should be looking for right now? Where should their attention be focused?
It's a good question.
And should they get into crypto?
I would definitely say study everything. It's really how I started. I honestly just started reading articles. I started listening to YouTube videos. I started following people that were known as influencers in the space. I joined groups. I asked questions. I think more than anything, more than me predicting the future, or any of us predicting the future, I think we have to understand that whether it's blockchain, AI, virtual reality, it's changing and it's moving in that direction. So more than saying, is this one thing going to take off? I think the bigger question is, am I going to get left behind because I have not kept up with how technology has evolving? Because it doesn't matter what age you are, this technology will affect you somehow. And if you're at an age where maybe you're working for a company right now, you got to be educated to know, are there parts of your business that may be replaced by AI? Now, they're not going to replace everything, but if you really study the latest trends and latest articles, you'll know that, for example, one of the reasons I'm in fintech right now is because there's so many credit analysts, financial analysts that don't realize that a lot of their daily tasks, right, manual tasks, research, whatever, will very quickly be replaced by AI.
Mm.
And the needs are shifting. The needs from humans are shifting. They need the strategic, the bigger vision people to put everything together, right? And that's kind of more my skill at this stage in my life right now. Is I'm more like the strategic person, taking a step back, looking at everything, analyzing it, and seeing, what's missing and this and that. So that's something that, AI can do certain things. They could run data tests, but somebody's got to actually analyze that data, take that data, and make strategic decisions.
Mm.
So if that's not really your current role right now, I think it would be best to update and start learning. There's enough time to learn. Just don't leave it. Don't leave it for another 5 years from now.
Okay. 5 power tips how to become an influencer from Sherry.
From Sherry. Written by Sherry.
Yeah.
Okay, number 1. Show up. Even if you don't know what to say or do, show up. People need to see you everywhere. Now, again, this is if you want to be an influencer. Be seen. Number 2, give value even if you don't think you have value to give. Find a way. Find something of value you can give to somebody else that may have the knowledge you want, the connections you want, something. Be extremely resourceful in that. Build a brand. A brand is so key, because when you build a brand around yourself, you're going to, if you follow the steps to actually build a brand, you're going to have to create content, put articles out on the internet. That's what I did. You can do a podcast. I actually started off doing my own little mini TV show, digital TV show, for about, 20 episodes or something like that. And that got me enough attention with a crowd that I grew from there. So the brand is everything. 4, get out and meet people. So there's even events such as dinners. Sometimes entrepreneurs put together these fun little dinners, which I love because they always find great, tasty restaurants. And they put you in a room with maybe like 10 to 15 other entrepreneurs that they feel like you might benefit from getting to know. And you never know what comes out of those situations. So if anything, you get a free meal, or not I'm trying to think. Did we get a free meal?
If you pay for it, no.
Yeah, I know, right? I can't even remember. I've been to so many. But anyway,
I think some are, some are not.
Yes, some I've actually have been paid for. But even so, you get a nice meal. You get to meet some amazing people, and you really get to see what value you bring to others.
Yeah.
So it's a great experience. And then last, what else? There's so many. Another way to build influence, I would say, to find, there's so many. Partnerships are great. So whether it's partnering with another influence or somebody with equal or more, I don't want to say status, but that's how they look at it.
It's how it is, though.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I know.
If that bothers you as an entrepreneur, then you're in the wrong business.
Right. Exactly. But that association can actually really take your business to the level. And that's happened to me several times in terms of being seen by more and more people. And a lot of it had to do with who I was associating with. So those are my 5 power tips. I don't think I can read them back to or mention them all back to you, but
I have them recorded. I can send you a copy.
Right. And there's so many, you guys. There's so many more. And honestly, if anyone ever wanted to reach out to me, I've got tons of free content to share with more tips.
Yeah, before I ask you one more question, before I ask you the question I was going to ask you after we finish, but I'm going to ask online just so you guys can hear as well. Tell me, where can people reach you? Where can people find you?
So the best place is going to be my website, which is sherryame.com. That's CherieAimee.com. And as of a couple months, I'll be having my entire site rebranded. So it'll be very, very clear on what services, what free content. So I'm so excited for it. That's the best place. And then if you go to the bottom of the site, you'll see my social media links. I'm very active on social media as well. A little bit less more now because I'm building, but it's very easy to get in touch with me. So I like to make myself accessible.
Perfect. So here's one more question, and then I'll get to that question after.
I'm waiting for it.
Okay. So what's the one question you wish people asked you, but they seldom do? Or they don't?
That would ask me, or just in general?
Well, yeah. What question would you wish people asked you, but they don't?
I wish people asked me, how did I build this brand? Especially when I keep saying that I could not walk for a year.
Perfect. And now, my question. When you were in that situation before the life support, with the arrest, the cardiac arrest and everything.
Yeah.
Was there another side? What did it feel like? Did you feel like life continued or not?
Yes. And they refer to that, now I know, as a near-death experience. Yes. When I was having the CPR, right after I flatlined and they couldn't resuscitate me, my soul went somewhere else. It went to an entirely different realm. The events that unfolded for me, there's no other way of saying it other than when I crossed into this realm, I just knew I had died. So, that took my experience to a whole other level. That took my spiritual awakening beyond just what my body went through. I mean, I really experienced an entirely other world, an entirely other realm. I saw loved ones that had passed on. I was just given information about just how the world works in general, how to create things. I mean, a lot of the wisdom, a lot of the power and the momentum that you hear in my voice, and that conviction really actually comes from that journey in the other realm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So life continues after death.
Life continued for me. I'll say that. Yeah.
Sherry, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'm just so thankful that you invited me on here. This has been really an amazing, really rich conversation. So I just want to point that out because I really like this. It felt so natural, so real, and that's where I align the best, when I can just kind of be myself, bring value, and not feel like I'm above anyone, below anyone, just me sharing my heart. So thank you for creating that space for me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sherry. And you also helped me a lot in this conversation as well. And thank you guys for watching. Go check her out. Check Sherry out down in the description below. I'll leave all the links. And comment down below, what was your biggest takeaway from this interview? We would really like to know. Thank you. And until next time, keep succeeding.
Bye.